Yo, what up YouTube? It is your boy Joe Barber. It's Sunday morning. Today's December 16th, I think. I know I haven't been posting videos. I've been really going through a lot of life-changing events in my life. I rededicated my life to God. I got in a very serious relationship. Now I have a child on the way, and there's a lot of things going on in my life that I didn't plan it, I didn't expect things to move the way they did, but that's neither here nor there. I say that just to say that, sometimes life happens and you have to adjust, and you have to make the right decisions. And there's a lot of obstacles that come into our life, and sometimes we don't know how to decipher some of the things, because when you start trying to unravel your life and the mess that you've made without you walking with God, and I'm not saying that God can just but the reality is that, the thing that comes to mind is like you got a knot in your hair, man, and you're trying to, people just want to cut it out, right? Just like that. But sometimes it's just having patience and pulling one hair at a time and figuring it out and untangling it, right? And that's what's happening in my life. There's a lot of obstacles that I've overcome in my life, so I thought I was prepared for a lot of things. I'm like, man, I'm ready, God. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to open a new business and rename my school and do all this stuff with that part of my life. And then I have my personal life where I feel like, man, I'm good. I don't compare myself to anybody. I don't care what people think about me and whatever. And as much as I want to believe that that's true, it's not always true, because there's parts that are underneath other layers of things that we're still dealing with. And I have a lot of insecurities about myself. That doesn't necessarily mean just like on my physical appearance or my body or whatever. It's more so things that I grew up with, and some of the habits that I developed, and the insecurities that I've had is, growing up poor, not going to college, like not getting a degree, not going into the military, not having that stability and that security all the time that a lot of people have, that I see, and I want that. But I have all these other gifts that I'm not utilizing anymore. I'm not using my creativity. I'm not using my artistic talents to do things. And I'm trying to, I don't know the word, but I'm trying to become like civilized, man. Like, just what I want is, I want a wife, I want a family, I want to settle down, I want to move forward in my life, I want to fulfill my purpose, I want to live to God's standards, not the world's. And sometimes I share my my experiences with people in my life, with people that I know, people that I confide in, and they're not of God. They might not follow God the way I do, or they might not be seasoned in that way. So it's hard to get their perspective and apply it to my life, because they're in a place where I don't want to be, in a sort of a way. And what I mean that is spiritually. So when I say these things, I want to encourage people out there that the main thing that you have to do is always stay connected to God. You may have some anger issues, you may have some insecurities, you may have some bad habits that you develop. I developed a lot of bad habits due to my father not being there, due to my mother being the way she was, being around different people that I've grown up with. And I've always had this defensive mentality, and I hate being disrespected. And it's like, I feel like I'm like Marty McFly from Back to the Future. It's like, I can avoid a lot of things, but I hate when people challenge me. And it's like in the movie, it's like, what are you, chicken? And it's like, that gets me riled up every time. And I'm like, no, I'm already over that. Someone could say, because like if I'm going to get into an altercation, for example, I love basketball, man. But the last 3 times that I've played basketball, except for this last time that I played at an alumni tournament, I knew everybody, so it was all good. But when I go to the gym, there's always a hothead there that used to be like me. That's who I was when I was young. And I used to be like that, reckless, didn't care. I didn't care. I always wanted to fight. Like, that was just me being dumb, because I was insecure about myself. I felt like if I can beat people up or show that I'm not scared, I'm tough, I'm a man, and where I'm from, I was raised that way. If you have a problem with someone, you duke it out, and either y'all squash it or y'all gonna fight again, and then until you keep running into each other, until one of y'all finally gives in and says, all right, dog, we'll just squash it. So I grew up like that. And if you talk about people, if you say certain things, it's warranted to get beat up. Not, like, I'm not talking, and that's the thing nowadays. It's hard to say those things now because I hear myself and I'm like, yeah, man, it's very offensive to say those things. But where I'm from the west side of San Antonio, and that's how things used to get handled. And I don't condone that. I don't condone violence at all. That's why I gave up basketball. Every time I went to a basketball court and something was going on, it's either someone wanted to tell me stuff and I would react, or I would be like, nah, you know what, dude, it's cool. I don't want no problems. And then, like, my son is there, so they can't get to me, so they do something to one of my sons, and man, I just lose it. And I'll go to jail. Like, I'm that, my mentality was like that. You do something to my child, I'm going to jail, bro. Like, that's how I was. Now I'm not trying to do that. I got a home, I got my family, I got grandchildren, I got another kid on the way, I got my business, I got my future, I got what God's blessing me with. And why am I gonna surrender all that and sacrifice all that because I don't know how to regulate my emotions, right? I don't know how to disconnect from that. And like I said, I don't struggle with it like I used to, but I still struggle with that. And that's an insecurity that I have to learn to deal with. And I have to talk to mentors. I have to talk to other people that have overcome that. And like, what can I do? And I'm learning, man. I'm learning. And this message is for the people that are out there that are trying to better themselves. If you're trying to better yourself, man, you're gonna face obstacles and you're gonna be attacked. And remember, the war is not in the flesh, it's always in the spirit. So if you react in the flesh, you're gonna damage what you have, like, coming in the spirit. And instead of running to the world, don't run to the girls, don't run to the drugs, don't run to the alcohol, don't run to the, as much as we feel that that's the most comforting thing to do, because it's so like you can recognize it, it's like easier to connect with. You need to stop doing that. I had to do that myself, because a part of me, yeah, man, when bad things happen, I want to go hang out with my friends, I want to go do things. Now, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have faults. That doesn't mean that I don't have weaknesses. Sometimes it is those anger issues, or sometimes it is those insecurities, or sometimes it is your mind running around and telling you like, oh man, you ain't good enough. That's why, she would leave you for him, or that's why he'll leave you, and like your father will leave you, or why your father left you, or why your mother didn't love you enough, or why, like, past relationships didn't work out. And sometimes those are the things that when people bring it to my attention, man, I find it very offensive. And then, because my old ways of dealing with things was to stand up for myself and be like, nah, you ain't gonna tell me, you ain't gonna talk to me like that, then that part of me rises up, and I'm just like, man. And then I feel foolish, I feel disgusted with myself, because I know that I am surrendering my life to God, and I'm not surrendering those areas. And when God brings it to my attention, I feel like a failure. I feel like a bad father. I feel like I'm not, I'm not good enough to be loved by somebody. I'm not good enough to be married. I'm not good enough to raise a child. I'm not good enough. Like, I start thinking like that. But I know that I am. I know my track record proves it. I don't, and not to say that because someone has experienced that in their, I don't have no abusive, man, the worst thing that I probably got on my report, with the police, is like traffic violations, not having insurance, or loud music, or stuff like that. I've been assaulted, and thank God that when I've defended myself, it never went past that. And I should have gotten in trouble, but by God's grace and his mercy, it didn't happen. And not to say that I don't feel guilty, because I do feel guilty of anyone that I've hurt in my life. And I pray that they forgive me, and I pray that they have mercy on me, because I'm no longer that person. I'm not who I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm not who I was 5 years ago. I'm not who I was last year. I strive to get closer to God, and the closer you get to God, sometimes, man, it hurts, because God's removing things that you don't want to let go of. And what I'm praying for in my life is to have peace. I'm praying that I can live up to the God standard, and it's not easy, bro, because we're human. If you're not fighting the enemy, you're fighting yourself. If you're not fighting yourself, you're fighting the temptations. If you're not fighting the temptations, you're fighting the perspective of other people around you that you surround yourself with, the music you're listening to, the TV shows you watch, the movies you watch, like your job, like how you view your job. And it's all in your mind. The battle is in your mind and in your spirit. And you have to wake up with conviction, knowing that, you know what, God, I know that I'm going to fail, but because of you, I'm going to succeed. And when you know that that's what the battle is, like, you got to surrender. That's the first battle you want to win, is against yourself. In the morning, you got to denounce yourself and say, you know what, God, it's not because of me. Is because of you. The reason I have my job is because of you. The reason I'm still breathing is because of you. The reason my house is still standing is because of you. The reason I have vehicles is because of you. The reason I have money in my bank account is because of you. The reason I have my family and my friends that matter to me, the reason I have my church, the reason I have opportunity is because of you. And you got to denounce yourself. It's nothing that you can do, because whatever you accomplish on you, with your own hands and with your own mind and with your, like, it's about me, you're building it on sand, and it's gonna fade, it's gonna crumble. And I see that, and I know that. I've had a lot of things, I've experienced a lot of things, man. I've messed up a lot of great things that God has given me. Why? Because I wasn't ready to handle them. I didn't tell myself, like, hey, this is important. Hey, you need to sacrifice these things and let go of all this stuff, because this is what you need to focus on. I always thought it was about me, myself, and I. And I always felt like, man, I don't need nobody, dude. I can live my life. I can make money. I can buy a house. I can do all. Yeah, you can. But what good is a house if it's empty? What good is a house if it's not a home? And what good is a business? And what good is money? And if you're not, building people up, and you're not giving back to, not to say you have to give back, like, if you're not investing in people, because that's what God commands us to do. God commands us to lift up other people and give other people opportunity. And that's what I want to do. That's why I want everything in my heart to be removed that doesn't belong, and there's different things that God uses to get our attention. God can use birds. God can use, a neighborhood. God can use a vehicle. God can use circumstances, situations, and I promise you, if you call out to God, he will respond. It may not be the way you want. I've been praying for finances. I've been trying to expand my business, and God answered that prayer. My business partner helped me out. But besides that, I need finances to help maintain my home, maintain my family, maintain my relationship, maintain, my tithing, maintain, like, those are the things that I need help in. My business is doing okay right now, and I'm grateful for that I'm rebranding my college. I'm reinvesting in it and doing these things, and we're on track in that area. I don't feel like I'm on track at home. I don't feel like I'm making enough money to take care of my home the way I want to. But at the end of the day, I have to surrender that to God regardless, because God is working with me. God is removing things, and I have to be alert to that. And all I'm telling people out here, if I'm going to say anything today, is make sure that you understand that your connection with God is the most important thing, regardless of how much you love your family, regardless of your work, regardless of your health, regardless of all that. Make your connection with God first, and God will take care of everything else, man. And things may not always work the way you want them to work, but remember, God's thoughts are greater than your thoughts. God has a greater plan for you than what you thought. Oh man, I got my house, I got my business, I'm doing good, I'm gonna blah blah blah, so I could retire. No, God has a different plan. I didn't expect to I didn't expect to be having a child at 43 years old, but that's a miracle from God, and it's a blessing. And I know that I want to experience this fatherhood this time around. I want to experience it with grace. I want to experience it with an open heart. I want to experience it with the least amount of resistance of being a father, of being a husband, of being whatever God calls me to do. I'm not a husband yet, but that's what I'm proclaiming that I'm going to become, because that's what I want. But that doesn't mean that I'm ready, and I'm signing up to, take marriage counseling. I'm signing up to take just counseling for myself with my church, because I know how important it is for me to let go of my anger, my insecurities, my confusion with what my expectations are for myself, for my partner, for my family, for my business, like all these things that I want to be successful at. I have to surrender that to God, and I need guidance. I can't do it on my own, and I know that God is going to put people in my life to help me do that. And hopefully this reaches somebody that may be questioning themselves. And being an entrepreneur is not easy, man. I am telling you, it'll drain you, it'll break you, it'll lift you up, and you'll touch heights that you're like, man, money good, life good, got the jewelry, got this, got that. You start comparing yourself. There's always going to be somebody that has a better car, a bigger house, a better marriage, a better family, a better whatever. Always, always, always. So stop comparing yourself to them. You don't know behind closed doors what these people are doing. You don't know what these people are facing, and you do not know what these people are sacrificing, to get where they're at and to be where they're at. That does not equal to being joyful in God's presence. Just because they have the house, just because they got the nice car and the whatever family and whatever it looks like outside, you're looking through this window and from there it looks like, man, their life is beautiful. You're not seeing the whole picture. And because of that, you think that their life is just like, oh man, their life is amazing. You don't know what these people go through. You don't know what they've done. You don't know what is brewing inside of them, and you don't know what's coming, what storm they survive or what storm is coming that they're going to have to endure. So I learned that in my life. I don't want to compare my life to somebody else's. I used to do that a lot. And I surrendered that to God, because I'm like, dude, whatever my neighbor's doing, and if they're doing great, praise to God that they're doing great. If my other neighbor is sick, still praise God, because I know God, my God is a healing God. And if I know that my other neighbor is struggling with finances, I pray to God that he blesses them. And I pray that God, overflows their cup. I want people to feel God's presence. I want people to feel God's love. I also want them to feel God's wrath. I do. Not in the sense of crushing them, but crushing the ideas, crushing the desires of the world. That's what I want God to remove from all of us, because this world is deceiving. This world, man, it'll steal your joy. It'll crush your family. It'll crush your dreams. It'll crush your purpose. And then it'll blame you for it. Oh, you see, you're not good enough. You see, you're nothing. You're from the projects, bro. God can't use you. You're a bum. You're a loser. You don't have a 5-year plan. You don't have a $500,000 house. You don't have a brand new car. You don't have this, athletic body anymore. You don't have all the things. So the way the devil works, man, is what he wants to do is the same thing that he did to Adam and Eve. He gets them to focus on what they don't have. They have all these beautiful and wonderful things that other people are praying for. But the devil, he makes you focus on, hey, you don't got that paying job. You don't got that nice car. You don't got that 2023, that 2024. Your house don't have, 8,000 square feet. Man, you don't got all the Christmas lights like all the other neighbors. You don't got the beautiful blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that the devil, man, the devil will deceive you. And that's what he wants to do. He wants you to not be present and not be in a moment of gratitude. Like, he doesn't want you to be in a spirit of gratitude. And that's the best place to be. You know what, God? I don't have all the money that I want, but I praise you. You know what, God? My body is not as healthy as it used to, but I still praise you. You know what, God? My truck is not running the way it used to, but I still praise you. My business is not flowing like it was before, but I still praise you, God. My family is not functioning as a unit like it used to, but I still praise you, God. And that's where it's at, man. Remaining grateful for what you have, remaining grateful for the health, remaining grateful for even the little things that you have. Your animals are safe, man, turning the light on, having hot water, being able to cook. Like, those are all things that I appreciate now, man. And sometimes I know that when God humbles me, is because he's going to elevate me to the next level. And I have to be prepared for that, man. I want it so much. I prayed for this woman, my partner. I prayed for a person like her for a long time. And one thing that I'll tell y'all real quick, I'm just going to end this because I know it's going long. But one thing that I'll tell you is that I wanted a wife. I wanted a godly wife. I wanted a godly woman. And sometimes we'll pray for something that we're not ready for. Sometimes we want stuff that we're not ready for. You know, I often talk to my customers about, you know, a lot of guys, we want this beautiful girl with the pretty face and the nice hair and the good teeth and the nice body and the good, you know, dressing nice and all this stuff, right? We want that, but a lot of us don't even know how to handle a woman like that. A lot of us men don't know how to water that kind of plant, right? If she's a flower, let's say all women are flowers. Not all flowers are the same, right? You got some flowers that will bloom, you know, they need very minimal water. You need some flowers that, man, too much sun will hurt them. Too much water will hurt them. They're very delicate, but they're very beautiful. Sometimes they only grow in specific areas. They need a specific type of soil, a specific type of fertilizer, and it becomes all consuming sometimes when you have that kind of exotic flower, because it takes maintenance. And if you're not the kind of guy, if you're not the kind of man, if you're not the kind of person that can pay attention to the details and take notes and apply yourself in that way, I promise you, man, you're going to crash and burn, and you're going to lose who you are trying to keep that flower alive. And that's why sometimes you got to stand back and be like, man, do I really want that kind of flower? You know, and then when God gives you the flower, like he gave me the flower, I didn't even know what kind of flower it was. So then it's like, hey, I'm giving you this flower. Now learn how to nurture this flower. Learn that this flower has thorns. So when you try to grab it, it might prick you. If you try to do this, it's going to be able to defend itself, you know, and it's beautiful from a distance, and it's beautiful when you smell it, and it's beautiful when you're around it, but know that there's another side to it. And it's just like, man. And I know that that's the way God speaks to us. God will use, you know, nature. God will use things. I even, you know, talk to men about women like cars, you know, not, I hate speaking like that because women come after me like, we're not cars. But what I mean by that is sometimes women will get, you know, they want to feel a certain way about themselves. So they get the plastic surgery, they get the upgrades. And I'm not here to condemn nobody. If that's you, and that's between you and God. But what I tell men is just remember that sometimes these women do that because they're not doing it for you. They're doing it to compete with other, you know, people, and I mean other women. And it becomes that, like, they're trying to make sure that they still look a certain way, you know, and sometimes it's because of that insecurity that they may have, but they have to get their eye off of comparing themselves to other women, because God made them beautiful the way they are. God made them and molded them wonderfully the way they were. You know, God breathed life into our lungs. And so when you get to that point, I'm not saying you can't work out, eat healthy and do that, but I don't want men to ever think that because of, when, you know, using the car metaphor, I tell my friends sometimes, like, man, there's some women that do all that stuff, and, you know, it sounds, you know what, man, I think the God don't want me to talk about that right now, because it doesn't work, man. And I know it doesn't work all the way. But what I'm saying is, the main thing is you never want to change yourself to try to be, if you're a Ford, if you're a Honda, if you're a Hyundai, if you're a Mercedes, or whatever brand you are, you can't try to be like the other brand. God made you like this. If you're an SUV, you can't dress it up like a car. And if you're a car, you can't act like you're an SUV. Like, it's just certain things that God created us to do and God created us to be. And we try to mutilate ourselves just because that, oh man, that sports car looks better. I wish I was a sports car. And it's like, but you're an SUV right now, and this is what you need in your life right now. An SUV drives like a car, depending on which one you have. You're able to pack stuff in the back. You're able to take long trips. You're able to move comfortably. There's space. You're protected. And, you know, God forbid a car accident happens. Stuff like that. Like, and this is all metaphorically speaking, you know. But some people, you know, and in different seasons in your life, like, you know, when you're young, we say we live life in the fast lane when we're young. So when you're young, you're in a sports car. And then you get a little older, you get an SUV. And then you get a little older, you might get a little minivan. There's nothing wrong with having a minivan. There's nothing wrong with having an SUV. You can't live in that sports car forever. But a lot of us men, that's why I say I connected with men, because men get it. That's why when we hit, like when we're 50 years old, we have this midlife crisis and we want to go get the Corvette. We want to go get the sports cars because we want to go back to that. And it's like, bro, let it go. Let it go. Get a nice little pickup truck. Get you a little classic car. You don't need 500, 800 horsepower, bro. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about. And sometimes when we talk about women, it's like that. Sometimes men, we want to go, oh man, I'll give me a younger girl. I'm going to get this and that. Man, I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of things that are required of you, you know, and I pray that for me, that God removes all that stuff out of me, man. I don't want to ever experience that. I don't ever want to feel like, man, I'm 50 years old. I need to go get a Corvette and I'm going to try and be like I'm young again. No, man. I'm going to embrace being a grandpa. I'm going to embrace being a new father again. I'm going to embrace, you know, loving my wife. If that is in God's will, I'm going to embrace that 100%. You know, that's what I want. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I'm still going to praise God. I'm still going to move forward. I'm still going to do what I love. My skills in cutting hair do not defy who I am. That is my skill. My art skills in drawing, that is my skill. You know, me being transparent and sharing this with people, that is a skill that God's given me. That is not gonna defy who I am. You know, anything that I've done in the past, good or bad, doesn't defy who I am. All the awards, that doesn't defy who I am. All the accomplishments, that doesn't defy who I am. All my faults, all the things that I've done wrong in my life, all the sin that I've committed does not defy who I am. And the only way you can undo all that is by surrendering it to God, accepting that you are a sinner, accepting that you need a savior, accepting that Jesus Christ died on that cross. He died, came up off the ground, came out of a tomb on the third day and defeated death and gave us a way, a path to get to the Father. And that's the thing that we have to embrace. You know, there's a lot that comes into that, man. A lot of people don't understand. I think a lot of us need to sit down and understand what salvation is. A lot of us need to understand what the atonement is. A lot of us need to understand why the word is so important. The water that you need to survive is not the H2O. It's not that we need. We need the water that flows, the living water that flows in the Bible. And that's what we need in order for us to not dehydrate. And that's what we need when we thirst for something. And that's what we need when we're running out, we're running low, man, and we're running low on energy. That's what we have to turn to. A lot of us don't turn to that. We turn to the world. We turn to gluttony. We turn to all of the holds that we have in our life. We just, you know what? It feels comfortable for me to do these things. And whether it's drinking, smoking, you know, fornicating, there's so many things. And I'm not saying one is worse than the other, because to some people, they can drink 5 beers and it's nothing. One person is you know, fighting that battle against alcoholism. And to them, it's like, bro, if I have one, I won't stop. And it's like, man. And then to them, you know, everybody has their vice, bro. And I know it because I have my vices. And I know that. And my pride, my ego, my insecurities, you know, those are the main ones right now that I have to battle and I have to surrender to God. So if y'all can pray for me, I appreciate it. But I want people out there to know that, you know, it's not just about cutting hair. It's not about being cool. It's not about the likes. It's not about Instagram. It's not about social media. Man, social media is a lie. Social media is a lie. People only put up their highlights. And then we compare all of our life to their highlights. And that's why people are getting all these apps and filters and this and that. And I'm not against it. I'm saying just be careful. Be careful who you follow. Be careful who you admire. And be careful who you idolize. Because some people are idolizing themselves because they look so good and so perfect on social media. They got the, you know, hundreds and thousands and millions of followers. But out of all those millions of followers, who really cares about them? Who really cares about their soul? Who really cares about their family? Who really cares about their well-being? That's the real question. Who's praying for these people? Who's trying to, you know, discern these people and let them know there's not too many? And that's the thing that God exposes to us. You could have a lot of followers, but you can have very few friends. And when you talk about friends, I'm talking about people that respect you, people that respect your and protect your name when you're not there, people that check up on you, people that'll feed you without you even, people that want to be around you and want to see you be at your best. And when you're doing wrong, hey man, that's wrong, bro. Don't do that. Like, let's pray about this. Let's do this. You need to surround yourself with, iron sharpens iron, right? That's biblical. And you're sharpening yourself up, man. But what's the opposite? When you're not sharpening yourself, you know that the shears that we use to cut hair, if you use that to cut paper, it'll cut paper. But the moment you go back to cut hair, it's going to be dull. And it'll dull your shears out. So what I'm saying is, just because it's created to cut doesn't mean it's specifically made to cut paper. So you got to be careful on who you're sharpening yourself up with, because the opposite is when you're not around people that are sharpening you up, they're dulling you out. And sometimes they do that without them even knowing, because they don't want you to be at this place, because you're going to either leave them behind or they're going to feel guilty. They're going to feel guilty that you're doing better than they are. And then envy starts. A lot of times that happens, but I know that God's still a merciful God. God is a loving God, and he will use you to save your family. He will use you to save your friends. But you have to be very careful, man, because the enemy, man, he don't stop. He don't sleep. He don't quit. And he wants you. He wants your family. He wants your loved ones. He wants your whole bloodline to crumble. And he doesn't like new life being created, because why? We are made in the image of God. Because we are made in the image of God, he's like, man, I'm coming for that kid. He doesn't even know that I'm coming for him, but he's ready for him. And that's why I feel like my relationship and my family's being attacked in a spiritual way. And I know that I have to surrender. And if I have to walk away to protect my family, in a sense, I'm ready to do it. And it's not the act of it, right? I'll walk away. No. What I mean by that is that I have to be able to be okay with, if God calls me to say, you know what, right now is not your season to be with your partner, I have to be able to say, yes, sir. And that's when you're surrendering to God, not fighting yourself and not fighting God. If God says this is not the season, or maybe this is not the woman that I have for you, are you okay with that? That's the question. And I'm talking to myself. But y'all know, man, that it is a battle every day. There's not one day that's not a battle. But remember, there's not one day that's not a blessing. It's just like night and day. You need the day, right? And darkness does not exist. Darkness, it's not like, daytime and nighttime, right? What happens is, darkness is just the non-existence of light. That's all it is. So when bad things are coming, it's not that it's just, there's an absence of God's presence, or there's an absence of you applying biblical truth to your life. So that's why you're still struggling in this area. So you need to find what God wants you to read and what he wants you to apply to your life in order for you to overcome. God will never leave you, but he's going to let you fall. He's a good father. He will let you fall, but he's right there to pick you right back up. And sometimes we go through the same test a lot of times because we don't slow down to say, you know what, God, what do you want me to learn from this? And that's the season that a lot of us are in. So hopefully this message reached someone, and hopefully it makes a difference. I hope that y'all stay motivated, devoted to God. And if you're not a believer, I hope that you stay safe. And I hope that you understand that you are worthy and that God loves you regardless, and that God has a place for you. And all you have to do is surrender to him, surrender to God, because we living in tough times right now, man. There's a lot of bad things going on. There's a lot of good stuff happening, but there's a lot of bad too, man. The devil is rampant right now. His demons are out and about. His demons are, man, destroying families, and he's going after our children. Y'all can see how things are changing, how laws are changing, and it's very scary for those that are not protected by the blood. And that's why I pray for you. And regardless of where you're at, if you're successful, if you're homeless, if you're struggling, regardless of where you're at, God will meet you where you are. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to wear a suit. You don't have to be at your best. You know, God changes you from the inside out. So y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay faded.